Okay, Matthew chapter 5. It's actually verse 9.
Yes.
Blessed are the peacemakers, for they shall be called sons of God. All right.
Sons of God.
So I was thinking maybe the way to start this conversation, if there was a gap in the conversation, but if you guys have something to say it, please, is this peacemaker, because what we've been doing over all of these things is trying to define the word that Jesus used. Blessed are the, and we try to define that. What does he really mean by that?
Right.
So we get to peacemakers here, and we try to struggle to define that. I was wondering if we would go with a slightly different approach and ask the question, what does it not mean? What are some things you've dismissed out of your head that he doesn't mean this as peacemaker? Go kind of stretch our brain that way a little bit.
Too early to stretch it that way, but I'll give it a shot.
Uh-oh.
I like it a lot because I can go two ways that it does. That one of them I think goes opposite of what most people think, and so I'll hold that comment until after we get to that point.
Well, one of the things that pops to my mind is because I look at peacemaker in a like a governmental ambassador kind of thing, where he's trying to stop a war, and he wants to stop a war at any cost. Or take, for example, family gatherings, and you always have one individual, and in families, you're always going to have this tension, right? I mean, it's just the larger the family, the more the possibility of tensions. And there's always one that doesn't want to have a fight, doesn't want to have an argument,
Right.
and they're always, trying to make peace, if I can call it that. And they do it at all cost. No matter what, we got to have peace in this
I know where
family.
you're going with that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I don't think this peacemaker here is that we have to have peace at all cost, no matter what. No tension. We have to be loving everybody, and everybody has to love us, and all has to be good. Let's just hold hands and
At all costs.
At all costs.
is the key.
Right.
I see where you're going with that.
Yeah.
Yes.
with it. And I don't think that's what this word peacemaker means.
No.
So I just kind of want to put that in our minds as we're going through this with it. Okay. I also don't think it means the maker of peace. That
To me.
that you cause peace as a person. You're not
That's where I was going,
generating
right.
the peace here. Okay. So even though it's got the word maker in, I think maybe flipping it over. I think a little bit. So I don't think it means that either. So okay. So that was an exercise in futility, trying to go that way. Let's try it a different way. So what does it mean?
Well, could you kind of?
I'm
by
slipping
doing it that way, I see what.
Yeah.
Because I was kind of saying going that way as far as the positive. I think the peacemakers is how are you that peacemaker? There's two ways I look at the peacemaker. One, of course, is this side of the cross. We are made at peace with God through the death, burial, and resurrection of Jesus Christ and our faith in that. So that's a peacemaker. I look at it that and I'm not saying it means that, but that's how I look at it one way. And also, I look at it, how do you become a son or a daughter of God? Let's say mankind. If you look at what is a godly man? Sons of God. How do I become a godly person? It's not believing in God this side of the cross. If you read scriptures, it's accepting Christ's death, burial, and resurrection. And then you receive the peace. You see, and that's why I kind of look at it twofold. Because when you say, and become, and called a son of God, there's only one way this side of the cross to be called a son of God. So I kind of go deeper with the peacemaker and also becoming. And then I guess what I'm going to tag along what you said. How do I become a peacemaker? Not at all costs, because of my faith. That doesn't mean I accept everything everyone else does to keep the peace.
Right.
We still must hold to our standards, so to speak. Okay, you don't believe in the death, but you take the burial, resurrection. Well, then, just to keep peace, I'll accept that. No.
And you compromise your.
I'm not going to compromise my faith.
Okay.
Go ahead, Nikki.
No,
as a reminder, these Beatitudes are a description, a prescription, a guidance of our relationship with God.
That's
as
right.
we're evolving our relationship with God, right?
Yes.
And so we get to this one here that is saying that after all the things that I've told you about being blessed about, here's one that I'm saying that when you have gotten to this point in your relationship of having a peace with God, okay? And what does peace mean? It means absence of conflict. That's
Yes.
what peace is. That then, once you get that, you can then show peace to others. Okay? Because you cannot share peace with others saying, hey, God is great, God is wonderful, let me share how great he is, if you're in total conflict with God.
That's right.
If you're mired in discord with God completely here. Okay? So things have to follow an order, right?
Yes.
One thing has to follow an order. And so, kind of related to this point and to your point, John, Romans chapter 5,
All right, Romans.
verse
I like
1.
when you do that. Romans chapter 5. There we are. I love Romans chapter 5 through 8, man. My favorite chapters.
Therefore, since we have been justified by faith, we have peace with God through our Lord Jesus Christ.
So notice the sequence that went on there.
Yep.
It's since we have been justified by faith,
Yep.
not by anything else. We then, and I like to add the word, we therefore have peace with God.
Yes.
is what that is. So we,
By faith, I love it.
yeah, it is really great. Yeah.
It is. Wait, hold on. Let me. I want to transition that from this because they don't put it Romans 5:1. I like that.
And a little bit further down.
Christ died for the ungodly. I love that.
Yeah.
Jeez.
Jump down to verse 8 through 10, Steve.
Hey, but God shows his love for us in that while we were still sinners, Christ died for us. Since therefore we have now been justified by his blood, much more shall we be saved by him from the wrath of God. For if while we were enemies, we were reconciled to God by the death of his Son, much more now we are reconciled, shall we be saved by his life.
And so the essence there is reconciliation, and that's where this peace comes from.
Yep.
When you have a conflict in a relationship, and to correct it, you got to reconcile it, and in that reconciliation, then you have peace. We cannot say, let's make peace and we'll get reconciled, and that's what man tries to do all the time. He tries to make peace, and then get reconciled. It's sort of like when two brothers are arguing or fighting, and mom says, "All right, shake hands,"
Shake hands, yeah.
and hug each other, and then you expect peace, right? It just doesn't work that way. You've got to reconcile the issues out with it. Okay. What else? Before I have to whip out some more scripture on this.
I like it.
I think, Howard, you alluded to it, this is the first beatitude that goes outside of ourselves.
Yeah.
It's the first one where it says, okay, now that you've gone through all of this, now that,
You've realized your
you've
depravity.
gone through this process
Yeah, exactly.
of, now, okay, now it's your time and it's to have the process you've gone through and to allow that out.
Right.
And to show that and to use that in your relationship with other people around you. And it's something that can only come, and that's the thing, it can only come if you've gone through this process.
Right.
You can't be a true peacemaker, like you said, unless you've experienced and reconciled the peace with God, right? Outside of that, all of our peacemaking has ulterior motives,
Right, right. Yeah, manipulation.
like manipulation.
Humanistic
Exactly right.
peacemaking, so to
Yes.
speak, is what I like to say.
Getting
Not
our
godly
own way,
peacemaking.
putting our own way,
That's
you know,
right.
getting our own way across. There's always an agenda behind it.
So that's another definition of what peacemaker is not. It's not a manipulator.
Yeah,
That's right.
yeah.
Yeah.
And always compromising to obtain peace.
Right.
You're right, that's the fleshly way, you're right, that's,
Yeah.
And once again, it's only possible, truly only possible, if you go, if all of these other things that you're going through exist in your life, right?
Well, yeah, you know, it's kind of odd. I kind of look at it also. It's almost like all these leading into this, but the
Mhm.
only way to get the first blessings is kind of like this could have been first. Before I can pure at heart, before I gotta receive the atonement. I gotta receive God's reconciliation. Before I can have pure
Yeah.
heart, before I can do this, before I can do that.
You've got to receive under an understanding of being poor in spirit.
Yes.
You've got to understand about grieving over your sin.
That's right.
You know, you go
It's-
on and on about all of this stuff. Yeah.
It's just a combination, and all that comes in the end is I need faith. I've got to get reconciled, number one. And you're right, this tells you how to receive it.
Okay, so let's go to this thought here.
Okay, here we go.
2 Corinthians chapter 5. Man, I like your interface, man. I just need to get
I mean 2 Corinthians, that's what I'm reading at home. I'm on 4 right now.
chapter 5, verse
Okay.
18 through 20. Stephen,
All this is from God, who through Christ reconciled us to himself and gave us the ministry of reconciliation. That is, in Christ, God was reconciling the world to himself, not counting their trespasses against them, and entrusting us the message of reconciliation. Therefore, we are ambassadors for Christ, God making his appeal through us. We implore you, on behalf of Christ, be reconciled to God.
the urgency that Paul here is stating, I'm urging you to be reconciled. That is what I'm thinking is what Jesus is trying to say, blessed are the peacemakers, is you have this message. You have received all this great things from God. Christ has saved you. Is a phenomenal message to share. And at the bottom of 19, entrusting us to the message of reconciliation. This is our mission one. I don't know how else to say it. This is our mission
Right, yeah.
here
Yeah.
with it. And it's not just share the message amongst each other. This peacemakers is not about fellow brothers. It is outside those who don't understand.
And how many of us explain it the way this? I like this because I like this word reconciliation. I need to start using that more when you're witnessing to people.
Yeah.
And then really, it's a great word to use. And I never really use reconciliation, but you need to be reconciled. And don't worry about me. You need to be reconciled to God. How do you get there?
Right.
And that's a good word for people to come.
Couldn't that word reconcile be put in the place of this peacemaker?
I
I
personally
think so.
think.
Yes.
I personally
Yes.
think so too. Although it'd be a great risk at Howard of rewriting the Bible,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
I would agree with you.
No, but
It's a good synonym. It's a good
It's
synonym.
the foundation of what is being
I
said.
think so. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right? Is that we are called. We are blessed when we are called sons of God when we present to others
Yeah.
the reconciliation with God, the result of the reconciliation with God that we've experienced.
Blessed are the messengers of reconciliation.
That's right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
For you will be called sons of God.
That's right. Yeah. You know, in a sense, it ties into the Great Commission. I mean,
Well,
come on.
it is.
Yes, it is. I mean, that's what I'm saying. It's tied. It kind of goes hand in hand. But before you can go out and spread the Great Commission, you must be reconciled.
Right.
And that's
One of the primary things about management in corporate world is keeping the main thing the main thing. Keeping your eye on the goal at all
Yep.
times. That's what makes an effective organization. When you don't get distracted on the other things. Things like, I don't know, the message of the end times. The message of you have to act and live a certain way. The message that you have to be of a certain group or a tribe. You have to be of this denomination. Those are the messages that we slip into,
Right.
and not the message of
Today
reconciliation.
it's, getting caught up in
Social issues.
Social justice,
Yes,
Yeah.
right.
which has creeped into our faith, and I love that, Steve, because it's important that we understand that, because, I mean, if and I tell everybody, if you want social justice, you might want to look what was going on back then, and then when our Lord walked the earth, he wasn't here for social justice. He could have done it, and he didn't. So we need to understand, I'm with you on that. And that's very dangerous where our faith is going into right
It's
now.
so easy for us to slip into those things.
Yes.
Because
Good
honestly,
point.
it's a lot easier than the message of reconciliation. Because you have to be reconciled. And and I think that's where the tough part comes, is if you start to feel like, well, maybe I'm not worthy, maybe I'm not any of these things here. Where Christ says, you are, blessed are you for that. I do like the word ambassador. Early on I mentioned about peacemakers are not an ambassador, but in this respect they are an ambassador, because they're not speaking for themselves. An ambassador speaks for his country, for his kingdom.
Exactly, and if you really look at the way an ambassador's supposed to act,
Right.
that's the key word.
Yeah.
You're right, because now I am representing the United States of America.
Right, for
well, then I'm going to uphold our traditions, our laws. Well, we are ambassadors of Christ. We uphold His,
Exactly.
His authority.
Right.
You're right. That's the difference.
Yeah.
All right, let's see. I'm thinking this other verse I really liked, so that's why I'm going to it. Let's see if this is what I want here. Yeah, I didn't think I was it. I wrote down a whole bunch of references. Oh, there it is. I don't want to glance at it real quick before I said it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Steve, John chapter 13.
Okay, John 13.
And starting, actually I'd like to do 34 and 35.
13, 34,
Yeah,
35?
13, 34.
Okay.
A new commandment I give to you, that you love one another as I have loved you. You also should to love one another. By this, all people will know that you are my disciples, if you have love one for another.
So we've been talking about being this peacemaker and the message of reconciliation. And Christ says that you being that then allows you to, for they shall be called sons of God. Okay? The children of God. I don't know, I don't like children of God. This seems a little weird. By this, all people will know that you are my disciples. That's that identifying. And it's not that, I don't think the result of this blessing is that God is going to call you a son of God. But rather, they shall call you. So you will be identified with God.
Good great point.
You
Yeah.
see what I'm saying? And the same thing here.
I'm glad
By
you
this-
said that, because I was kind of wondering, but identify. I like that. Yeah,
Right.
you're identified with Christ.
The danger of taking it the
Yeah.
first way is that you say, if I'm a peacemaker, then I get saved. And that's skipping out of order, is what I'm saying.
Right.
I don't want God to declare me a son of God, and
Yeah.
therefore I am saved. It's rather, I want to be identified with God.
Yeah.
And that's the blessing, is being, I'm on Team God.
Right.
You know, that's that identifying. It's wearing your shirt, your LSU shirt. You're identifying with that which you support.
Yes.
Okay.
Right.
And I think it's primal for us to have that.
Well, you're right. And I want to just confirm what you're saying. The problem is so many people, and I like where you went with this, because so many people would skip peacemaker and go straight to sons of God.
Right.
Okay, but wait, first you got to understand, well, how do I become at peace with God? I see what you're getting, and so many people do that. They take things totally, they don't even read, but they see I can do this, and that's how the word has been manipulated. That's a great point. I mean, we need to understand, if you want to say that, go to the verse before it, and then tell me how you become at peace with God.
Right.
Good point.
It's the whole thing about love, and I think we fall into this trap of misdefining what love is.
Right.
In that, in many cases, we think that we come across with this idea of this emotion of love, right? This,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? That you
Yes.
love, you love one another. Me and myself, but I also know other people who I've talked to about this that really struggle with that.
Yeah.
That I don't love everybody in that emotional, feely good kind of way.
You're right.
And if that's the case, then man, I'm missing it, because I don't love one another. But if we look at the definition of love being a peacemaker,
Yeah.
in that we share our love a love for others is not expressed in the way that we feel or in an emotion, but our love for one another expressed in the fact that we are willing to share this peace that we've come to know, this reconciliation. We're willing to share this reconciliation with others. It's truly when we show our love for them.
And here's I'm gonna piggyback on that, because that's a great point. I'm gonna ponder on that this week, because you're right. And here's the reason why. Through our translation, love, we only have one expression, love. I mean, but through the Greek, we don't know what that love meant. And I'll give you a good example, because you hit the nail on the head. Because of my love for Christ, I am willing to share the gospel to show that love to people. Now, it's like if you look at the scriptures, when the Lord talks about love between a husband and wife, it's not an emotional love. He's talking about a decisional love.
Right.
There's a difference, and I don't know the Greek for it, but that's a great point. I think, and that's what he's talking about here. We have to make a decision. Yeah, emotionally, this guy I don't like, but I'm gonna make a decision to love them, to share the gospel. And I think that's what we need to understand, and that's the flaw of our English language. We don't really know phileo loves, brotherly love, agape, godlike. So I think that's where he's going with it. You're right. We have to make a decision to love people, and that's where we screw up, because we all want to be emotional, and we feel bad because emotionally I just don't love this person but you know what? I'm going to make a decision to love you.
Right.
I think that great point. That's why I'm going to ponder on that through the peacemaker. You're right. That's it's a decision.
So it gets down to ultimately making a decision. And I think that Paul helps us with that as well.
Yeah.
It happens to be in Romans chapter 12.
We go to Romans.
Verse 18.
Romans
12,
12,
18.
18. If possible, so far as it depends on you, live peaceably with all.
And that's that decision
Yeah, you're right.
that you make. Peacemaker isn't about making peace at all costs, because the ultimate cost was paid by whom?
Christ.
By Christ,
That's right.
right? So, and Paul says very clearly, if at all possible,
Possible is key word there.
and that is extremely key.
Yes.
That's the word.
Everybody
here.
runs over that one.
And-
No.
and is that you do everything you can.
That's right.
You don't compromise in anything, but you do everything you can to live peaceably with all. Sharing that message of reconciliation.
And it's not, and again, this is another thing, it's not beating people over the head with a Bible.
No,
Because that would be you going over the possible there.
Right.
I'm going to force this into you.
Right.
No, that's not how you do it.
yeah.
Yeah. And that's how people, I'm going to tell you, I've seen, and I was one of them at one time, that's how you get so frustrated, because you put their emphasis on you.
Mm-hmm. You do. Yeah. Yeah.
And not on Christ.
Final words. We're going to stop here. We're past our time. I wrote one little piece of note when I was doing my study on this, is that Jesus is truly the Prince of Peace.
Ah.
He really is. And in our season here, he is our Prince of Peace.
I'll see.
Yeah.
And we need to, and That's one thing I've been trying to focus on with other people. The season, we get so hooked up with everything
Right.
else.
Yeah. Okay. Any other
Great.
thoughts?
Great capstone,
It really is.
because it's only through the knowledge of him that we can know real peace, to
That's
have
right.
that real peace,
Praise
that
the
we
Lord for
can
that.
show to others.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome.